Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. This beautiful teenager on the screen is Alaunna Raffield. Unfortunately, she did not make it past the age of 14. Back on December 8th of 2020, her mother, Heather Williams, found her inside of the family's garage with a gunshot wound to the head. Now, it seems simplistic, right? You either believe it would be someone did that to her, or it was a unaliving of oneself, correct? Unfortunately, it's not that clear in the case of Alaunna Raffield. The evidence did not add up, and local law enforcement just seemed way too interested in closing out the case and moving on to the next one to properly investigate Alaunna's death.
The family of Oklahoma teen girl Alaunna Raffield scored a major legal victory after a judge awarded them millions of dollars in a wrongful death lawsuit that was filed after she died in December of 2020. And this case has drawn attention from everywhere because there have been inconsistencies in the investigation. It's also about the actions of a man who was connected to Alaunna's social media account that was at the center of this lawsuit and now has resulted in an $11.6 million judgment in favor of Alaunna's family. So what led to this lawsuit? Well, here's the background of the case in case you don't know it. On the morning of December 8th, 2020, 14-year-old Alaunna Raffield was discovered dead inside of her family's garage with a gunshot wound to her head. Alaunna's mother, Heather, and her stepfather, Kevin Williams, found this teen girl at around 6 in the morning. They immediately called 911. Her death was ruled a suicide, and the Prague Police Department closed the case. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation also never opened a formal investigation into Alaunna's death. And the family expressed concerns about this.
Jesse gives the rundown, but we're going to get into the lawsuit. That's why I want to show the rest of that particular episode of Sidebar. But again, she was found on December 8th of 2020 by her mom inside of the family's garage with that gunshot wound to the head. Now, both parents claim that they never heard a gunshot that morning. And I don't know about you guys, but I think if a gunshot was going off in my house, I think you would probably hear it. And in a garage, they have a lot of reverberation. So again, that is a concern. The police state that the gun Raffield used was also found several feet from her body, and this gun has never been positively identified as the gun that was used in her death. You'd think that that would be easy, right? You think that Prague PD would make sure that, hey, this gun that's near this victim, this teenager, that this is the quote-unquote weapon used to unalive this person. But no, they never checked that. She was right-handed. Alaunna was right-handed, and she was shot from the left side. Now, I'm right-handed, and most people are. And if you're right-hand dominant, you're typically going to do things on the dominant side of your body. So, God forbid you're going to do this. Wouldn't you be doing it to your right side of your body? Why would you try to reach over to the left side of your body, which is it's pretty difficult or nearly impossible to do? But they are stating that, they don't have a lot of questions with it. The police allegedly stated that the small pistol was actually even too heavy for her to hold. So investigators' reasoning is that she somehow cocked the gun with her left hand while the gun was in her right hand. Then she switched the gun to her left hand and supported it with her right hand as she shot herself in the head. Okay? Now, make that make sense. That just is as much word gobbledygook that is, I can't imagine. Oh, she cocked the gun on this side, but and it's too heavy, but then she moved it over to the other. No. That no. That would not happen. And it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And furthermore, no gunshot residue test was done on Alaunna, on her hand, or her clothing, or her head. So, pretty much, they came into this crime scene, Prague police. They came in to see, after they called 911, the family, and they pretty much immediately said, you know what? She took her own life, case closed. Yeah, it's not that simple at all. Now, investigators did run tests on the sweater that Alaunna was wearing, but this was only after the funeral home washed it 3 times. Now, we're not blaming the funeral home because they were trying to clean it up for the family, okay? And a funeral home would assume that they're done with that piece of quote unquote evidence, right? So they wouldn't think that this was anything vital at that point that law enforcement needed to test. They would have thought, well, heck, they've already tested this sweater, so we're going to wash it and try to clean it up for the family. But Prague police, that's a big screw up. They should have tested all these things immediately. Furthermore, the Prague PD, again, like I said, they closed the case, and they, as Jesse stated, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation never opened a case. So this was little Prague PD, a local police department like we all have, and no, they said, nah, we don't need your help, state police, Bureau of Investigation. Nah, we're good. We already know what this is. No. And law enforcement also stated that there was a relationship with an 18-year-old man, and this is where things get crazy, okay? This person's name is Cody. He's since changed his name at least once. I'm seeing twice, but at least once. He actually logged into Alaunna's social media accounts after her death to get a hold of photos. Why would he do that? So she's 14 and he's 18. Now, he's an adult and she's a child, basically. She's a teenager, but he is 4 years older and he's 18. Cody also admitted to investigators that he is the one responsible for multiple cryptic messages that were sent from Alaunna's account after her death. Because it's not creepy enough that you log into her account to take photos that you're trying to hide or whatever your reasoning is, but you're going to send messages like you are Alaunna. See, that never ends well, where someone tries to send a text to somebody that you're that person or post a message. It's very, very strange. It's always suspect to me. Very, very sus. Now, Alaunna also, she wrote in her notebook all the time. She was a avid journaler. She always wrote in her notebook, and nothing in there, according to her family, indicates mental illness whatsoever. She was happy, and nothing was going on. The lead investigator on the case, now he's the only one who seemed to have questions and want to investigate further on the case. He ended up having to resign after closing the case because they just wanted to get rid of it. So he just, Detective Matthew Hensley, he had to close it, and he couldn't. He's like, I'm done. So he left, the police department after that. It's sad that one investigator, was willing to stick his neck out for Alaunna and her family to find the truth, and the rest of the department, well, they just wanted it to be done and over with and filed away, like it was yesterday's news. But like Jesse was stating, there's a huge lawsuit that the family just won, but that's even crazy. So that gets into a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna go back to the Law and Crime sidebar video, and we're gonna go through that because he speaks with the family's attorney, and it becomes a lot more clear what's going on in this case with the lawsuit.
When it came to light that Alaunna Raffield apparently had a relationship with an 18-year-old man named Cody Baker, that's where things took a different turn. Because he later admitted to police that he had accessed Alaunna's social media accounts after she died. In fact, Law and Crime, we obtained a copy of the petition that the Raffield family filed in their wrongful death lawsuit, and the allegations against Baker, they're really troubling. And an investigation by the City of Prague police revealed, quote, stalking behavior by Cody Baker, who was fixated on Alaunna Raffield as his one love that he would spend forever with. In the petition, there's also visual evidence of what seems to point to an obsession with Alaunna. It says evidence of the strength of Cody Baker's fixation upon Alaunna Raffield is found in Cody Baker's arm tattoo. The Roman numerals, and it lists it out, reference the date December 8th, 2020.
Now that is creepy. Why would he have that date tattooed on his arm? Why? Very, very suspicious, in my opinion.
Remember, this is the date that Alaunna was discovered dead. Now, a friend that police had interviewed told them Baker had admitted to sending inappropriate photos to Alaunna, but that he deleted those off of his phone. And police found these nude photos of an unidentified woman, and Baker admitted, or allegedly admitted in his own words, that he was worried about becoming a sex offender, and the police was going to come looking for him soon. So Baker stated that there are photos that would get him in trouble due to him being 18 years old and AR being 14 years old. And there's also evidence in this petition of multiple cryptic messages from Alaunna's Snapchat account and anonymous accounts, but all after her death. And these include photos and posts which the family believes may have been attempts by Cody Baker to mislead investigators. And a couple examples of these are mentioned in the petition, one being an anonymous post to Instagram made by account Weasel the Goat, where the poster says, I stopped you twice, but failed on the third. I thought you were done trying. I was sadly wrong. There's another example of communications coming from Alaunna's account, clearly, again, after her passing, this time on Snapchat, where the user mentions that she had cuts on her arms and wrists. And Baker actually admitted to having access to Alaunna's social media, particularly her Snapchat account, but he told police that, he only accessed her account to keep all the haters off of her Snapchat and get a few pictures of her because he missed her. And that was the subject of this lawsuit against Mr. Baker.
Yeah, that is creepy as crazy. That's creepy AF, okay? He knew. Look what he's saying. Oh, because I was 18 and she's 14. So he thought, oh, crap, I might get in trouble for these photos. He was doing crazy crap, period. His behavior when it came to Alaunna, very, very strange. Very, very strange. And I believe he's got something to do with her death, allegedly.
And as we get into more details about the case and the investigation, I want to invite on a special guest. I want to bring on attorney Brandon Pearson, who has represented the Raffield family during the course of this. Brandon, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. So first of all, if you can explain to us, what was the suit about when it was filed in 2022? And why did the court rule this way with an $11.6 million judgment?
Jesse, thank you for having me on. I think it's important to put in context what kind of a lawsuit this is. This is civil in nature. So in a criminal case, you have beyond a reasonable doubt as your burden of proof. It's said to be anywhere from 85 to 95% beyond any reasonable doubt. It's obviously a higher burden to meet than a civil case. We can get into why the criminal case went the way that it did, why the investigation went the way that it did, whether it's lack of budget appropriation or going with the wrong leads. It's been called a botched investigation by our own Oklahoma State Legislature, who started the Alaunna Raffield Fund in her name as it relates to the amount of budget appropriation and training that the Prague Police and surrounding county sheriff's office had. We filed a civil case because justice comes in a lot of forms. Sometimes it comes in the form of a verdict. Sometimes it comes in the form of somebody having just a count in open court for what they did or what role that they played without actually getting criminal liability or some sort of punishment related to it. In this case, the civil standard is different than beyond a reasonable doubt. It's by preponderance of the evidence.
Right.
We're looking at what happened versus what didn't happen, what was more likely than not. And under a negligence standard for wrongful death, we're looking at duty, breach, causation, and damages, and the role that Cody Baker played in the death of Alaunna Raffield.
What is the theory? What role did he play in her death?
At minimum, he emotionally abused her, and at maximum, he played an actual physical role in her death. As far as specifics of what those allegations are that aren't contained in the petition, there is this investigation has never been officially closed. It is an ongoing investigation.
Yeah. And the civil cases are really, really, really good because they can get information like he stated. I love how he explains it, this attorney, how it's so different than a criminal case because you have to do beyond a reasonable doubt. Civil cases, they can get facts and information that they need out there. Okay. And at minimum, they're stating that he stalked her. He was, abusive. He, was, forced her into something or to be a victim of something. But it's more than that. I personally do not believe that Alaunna took her own life. There's just too many questions to me. And you know how I have on the side there, you guys have started to see it. People lie. Evidence doesn't. The evidence doesn't match up. It doesn't line up. How could you, there's all these things. I mean, they didn't test anything. And how could you shoot yourself in the head? You could do your non-dominant side, but they're saying she used her right hand to shoot, left, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. Oh, she did this weird combobulation and she couldn't hold the gun, so she had to use both hands. Come on. This was not her taking her own life at all. Someone else was there. Someone else took her life. And Cody is either a part of it or he knows a lot more, in my opinion.
For those reasons, as far as the specifics of how he could have physically played a part in her death, we don't want to jeopardize the integrity of an ongoing investigation as it relates to those acts.
Sure, I'll go into that a little bit and what you can and can't talk about. I completely understand. Why did the court rule in your favor, in the family's favor, and what do they make of $11.6 million?
Ultimately, whether it's a criminal or civil case, the first step in defending oneself in any sort of lawsuit is by showing up. While Cody or Mr. Baker played an initial role in the case by participating in the case and also being present at one deposition, he stopped showing up to court. And at that point, the Oklahoma courts are very clear about what they're allowed to award and what they're not. We actually spent a year, roughly October of 23 through September of 24, actuarially finding a model that the court would approve that's in compliance with Oklahoma law and Oklahoma standards for valuing the price of a life. Now, when we get not to sound, in the name of avoiding hyperbole and a lot of the emotions that are involved in this case, that's actually a very particularized, objective process by evaluating a life. So once the court signed off on the model that we were using, it was then incumbent upon the respondent in this case and Mr. Baker to defend or produce another model. He never did that. He never showed up. He stopped showing up. And on the day of the hearing, it was a day late and a dollar short, so to speak. The time to defend oneself had lapsed at that point.
So he shows up for a deposition and then he just kind of disappears. If he legitimately was trying to defend himself, he would have been there. He would have been there through the entire thing. And the excuses of, oh, I wasn't informed, or I didn't know about the dates, or whatever the hell he wants to throw out there, yeah, it doesn't work. So he lost. Now, will they ever be able to collect? Well, that's a whole other story.
So it was a default judgment. It was a default judgment entered by the court because he didn't do anything.
That's right.
How is the family reacting to $11.6 million? How does the family react to this?
Well, with the news coverage being the way that it was, and obviously losing your 14-year-old daughter, the family has become justifiably disconnected from this case. They've tried to move on. They're never going to get Alaunna back. And this is the one form of justice and criminal liability versus legal culpability. They've kind of taken a step back from this, and justifiably so. While they are encouraged, that we have some culpability associated with Mr. Baker, the reality of actually getting the money is an entirely separate can of worms. We have to, obviously, this will be hovering over Mr. Baker for the rest of his life, and that provides one particularized kind of relief for the family. But they're never going to get Alaunna back, and they've lost a sister and a daughter, and that's all they care about.
I was going to ask you, of course, that money cannot never replace a loved one. And that's in any wrongful death lawsuit. But also, I'll tell you, $11.6 million, unless I don't know too much about Mr. Baker or his family, maybe you can provide us a glimpse into that. But does he have that kind of money? Do you know how you would attempt to try to get that kind of money?
Well, I'm not sure that anybody in Lincoln County has access to that kind of money to a certain degree, as far as being able to pay back what one has done wrong in the form of a penalty. This amount of money will hopefully send a message to not only Mr. Baker and his family, but also the surrounding community, that if law enforcement is either hamstrung or doesn't have the budget appropriation to make an investigation happen, that there are other standards, there are other ways by which that we can hold somebody responsible. And hopefully this will have some sort of domino effect in that regard.
It's almost a symbolic win in a big way. I get it. I understand there's things you're limited in what you can speak about, but let me go through a little bit of this with you, and what you can share will be incredibly helpful. So it's my understanding that the Raffield family has expressed concerns about certain parts of this case and things that they felt just didn't line up. For one, the family reported that they never heard a gunshot, even though Alaunna was found dead in the garage. The gun was found several feet from Alaunna's body, and it was determined to have belonged to the family, but it was never positively linked to her death. And authorities also, they didn't conduct a gunpowder residue test on Alaunna's hands or head, and her clothing was tested after it had already been washed by a funeral home worker 3 times. Brandon, based on that, when I lay all that out, can you share how you or the family thinks maybe Alaunna died, or the deficits in this investigation, or why it was investigated this way?
Well, it truly is shrouded in a mystery, but I think you have to take a step back and put what happened on the day of Alaunna's death against the context of how Mr. Baker reacted in the outset and the days following, the months following those incidents. Normally, as a criminal defense attorney, something that we look at is somebody either comes forward, admits guilt or the role that they played, or it's inconsistent in some varying degree. What we found during the deposition that we took of Mr. Baker is that he would be remorseful in one question, and then 2 questions down, he would get angry, or he would want to, he felt that the pressure was coming on strong against him and that he would feel a need to explain himself. Not only is his alibi inconsistent and some of the facts related to the actual incident inconsistent, it's that Mr. Baker's never really taken a hard line approach or opinion or anything as it relates to what role he may have caused, whether it was a physical role or an emotional manipulation role. And I think what's clear through the transcripts of the deposition, which are public record, which every aspect of this case, frankly, is, and anyone with two eyes and ears and a little bit of common sense can see that this was a targeted manipulation of Alaunna Raffield from the moment that they began their relationship, and his conduct in the wake of her death was indicative of a defendant rather than a boyfriend that was mourning. It was covering the tracks rather than taking any measurable steps to protect the integrity of Alaunna's life or their relationship or anything that would shed a positive light on Alaunna. Everything came back to protecting Cody.
Is that what you think the access to her social media accounts was about?
You know, I got to be honest with you, Jesse. As I sit here at the ripe age of 37, I'm a little disconnected from the Snapchat, conduct of the world. Why teenagers do what they do these days. That being said, everything that we've been able to review about Alaunna's social media, the integrity of it has been compromised. I think objectively, as we sit here today, we can say that we're not able to answer those questions because Cody intended for us not to have the answer to those questions.
I love the way he put that. We don't have the answers because Cody doesn't want us to have the answers. Yeah. Again, it's a sticky situation, and nothing is going to bring back Alaunna. Nothing. And the money, it wasn't about the money. And anybody who thinks that, well, we can go off on that, but they want to know the truth of what really happened to Alaunna that morning. Cody, I believe he's very involved beyond just logging in to her accounts, posting weird, strange messages, and taking photos and whatever the hell else he was trying to do. The fact that he knew her login information is a whole nother thing in my mind, but I believe he knows a lot, and the fact that he changed his last name is telling to me as well. But this is a big one, guys, and I covered it once here back in 2023, but things are heating back up now after this lawsuit, and wouldn't it be great if the State Bureau finally opens an investigation into what really happened to Alaunna? I mean, granted, Prague police really screwed up things a lot. Like, big time. But could more answers be found? I believe they could. So let me know what you guys think. And this is not the last that you're going to hear about Alaunna here on the channel. My friend Brooks over at CLL, she's been talking to Alaunna's aunt. And she will be talking to her, I believe, again tomorrow. So I will post a link to that show. She spoke with her for the first time, I believe, last week. I don't know if she spoke to her previously. I'd have to look at her playlist. But very, very lovely woman. And I want to see justice as well. I mean, we are always about the facts, the evidence, and justice for these victims. Alaunna doesn't have justice. Prague police, they think she just took her own life and closed the book. All right, guys, I hope you have a great rest of the day. And most of all, stay safe.